Legend of Exorcism. Chapter 33. Igniting the Heart Lamp. Hung Jun's pupils contracted swiftly. He looked at Li Jinglong, and his breathing grew harsh. "Can you teach me how to use it?" Li Jinglong asked. Hung Jun pressed his hand against Li Jinglong's blood-covered chest, but he had no more energy left. He panted for a moment before shaking his head. He couldn't help but be filled with regret. Back then, he should have paid attention and learned more from Chongming. "Don't be impatient," Li Jinglong continued. "Think about it, try to recall, how did your dad teach how to use magic in the beginning?" "He told me I needed to trigger the meridians within my body," Hung Jun said, his mind filled with a tumult of thoughts. "But you have no mana, and I don't know if the heart lamp can be activated with this kind of method. Even if you have mana, you've never cultivated the immortal arts, so perhaps it wouldn't be of any use," Hung Jun continued, his brow furrowed deeply. "You'd still need to know spells and how to use exorcist artifacts." "Activate?" Li Jinglong immediately latched on to that point. He asked, "What does that mean?" Hung Jun replied, "It's that feeling of impending death during moments of life and death. It's that feeling when you're falling in midair, thousands of zhang above the ground, the feeling you get the instant right before you hit the ground." Hung Jun thought of the day that Chongming had taught him how to use spiritual qi. "You're a member of the Yao tribe. If you aren't able to use your magic, then you'll just have to fall to your death." And right after that, Chongming lifted up the collar of little Hung Jun, who wouldn't stop struggling, and tossed him down from a cliff some 10,000 zhang high. At that time, he had shouted wildly, but at the same time he had felt as if he was having an out-of-body experience as he suddenly became aware of the divine veins and earth veins. He saw the spirits wandering all throughout the corners of the world, and within his own body, a gust of energy swelled and burst out. Finally it was Qingxiang who whistled through the air as he shot towards him, catching him at a distance of less than 1 zhang to the ground, flying with him back into the sky. After Li Jinglong finished listening to this, he stared dumbly at Hung Jun, while Hung Jun frowned. "But the heart lamp wasn't something you were born with, and though I also once thought about it, I'm afraid that it'll only harm you. So the method that you brought up that day was this." Li Jinglong recalled the day when he wanted to learn how to use magic, and Hung Jun had brought up that there was still another method, before the Carpiao had stopped him right away. Hung Jun nodded and looked around at his surroundings before asking, "Where's Zhao Zilong?" Li Jinglong shook his head and answered, "Probably still outside." Hung Jun said, "When he finds that I've gone missing, he'll go back to find my dad." Li Jinglong responded, "We can't wait for that long, we need to figure out a way ourselves." Hung Jun laid on his side and closed his eyes. He could feel that his own mana was very slowly recovering. Thank the heavens and the earth! His magic recovery speed was faster than Chu Yangxi's and Mo Rigen's, perhaps because he was the blood of a half-Yao and his self-healing abilities worked much more rapidly than that of pure humans. Perhaps now, he would even be able to call his throwing knives to him, and though he had no mana to activate them, cutting the steel chains on his body might still be possible. "Let me try it." No, Li Jinglong immediately stopped him, saying, "Don't be hasty, I would rather that you stay unhurt." Hung Jun indicated that he shouldn't worry as he began to circulate his mana. The throwing knife in the distance began to tremble gently, before it slowly slid along the bank of the blood pool. He took a deep breath, but he had no energy to lift up the throwing knife, and he could only let it continue to slide along slowly along the ground. When it came to his side, his forehead was already dripping with sweat, and he was breathing heavily. Li Jinglong used his left hand to pick up the throwing knife, cutting through the metal shackles around his hands. He then cut open the shackles on Hung Jun's wrists, but the two of them didn't dare to move, both fearing that the shackles would let out a sound. Hung Jun flexed his 5 fingers, but in the end had no way to get that throwing knife to lift up, and after struggling for a moment, he could only give up. "You rest first." Li Jinglong made a hand gesture, gently picking up the throwing knife, before he turned his body and began to scoot one kun at a time towards the cage that held Mo-Rijin, gently poking the throwing knife into Mo-Rijin's arm. Mo-Rijin woke from the sudden pain, and when he glanced over, he saw Hung Jun, but Li Jinglong gestured for him to keep quiet as he began to slowly cut open the lock on the cage. Mo-Rijin didn't make a sound. In a flash, the lock fell. Mo-Rijin stuck a hand out to catch it, but his grip was weak, and he couldn't catch it in time. Just as the lock was about to clank against the cage, Li Jinglong instantly closed his fist around it. He took away the lock before handing the throwing knife to Mo-Rijin and gesturing at Chu Yangxi's cage next to him. Mo-Rijin leaned over to open the lock. Li Jinglong said to Hung Jun, "Can you get another one?" Hung Jun closed his eyes, wiggling a hand towards the artifacts lying discarded on the other bank of the blood pool, and another throwing knife slowly slid over in fits and starts. Li Jinglong grabbed it. In that moment, Mo-Rijin gently sliced a shallow gash on Chu Yangxi, and Chu Yangxi was also awakened by the pain. Li Jinglong then handed the second throwing knife to Chu Yangxi for self-defense. When Hung Jun called over the third throwing knife, he was already wholly exhausted. He leaned up against the wall, unable to move for a long time. Li Jinglong grabbed the third throwing knife, before nodding and indicating that this was enough. He returned to his original spot on the ground and laid down on his side, hiding the throwing knife in his sleeve. "Do those two Yaogwai have a spot where one strike would kill them?" Li Jinglong asked extremely quietly. "The heart," Mo-Rijin answered. "Where is a dragon's heart located?" Li Jinglong continued. "In the same place as humans." Chu Yangxi said, "In their Yao forms, a dragon's heart is 3 kun below the throat, and in their human forms, it's between their ribs." Li Jinglong then nodded and said, "In a bit, I'll attack first. Yangxi, you bait one over, and Mo-Rijin, you back me up." The three of them each held a throwing knife, breathing heavily, and Mo-Rijin said quietly, "Zhenqi, I might not be able to be of much help, so it's all up to you." Li Jinglong nodded his head. "Zhenqi," Hung Jun said quietly. "Wait a little longer, wait until my strength recovers a little more." Li Jinglong smiled towards Hung Jun, looking at him fondly. "Let's move," Li Jinglong said as he looked into Hung Jun's eyes. "Hung Jun!" Chu Yangxi let out a surprised shout, before slamming forcefully into the cage. The sound immediately alerted Suani, and Suani walked over with quick steps, chuckling coldly. "You've woken up." Just as Suani walked past Li Jinglong's body, Hung Jun's pupils suddenly contracted violently. As quick as a flash of lightning, Mo-Rijin forcefully kicked open the cage door with one foot, blocking Suani's way with a clang, attracting his attention. Li Jinglong jumped up neatly, the metal chain trailing along behind him as he pounced onto Suani from behind. Kicking off from the ground, leaping up, and pouncing forward though Li Jinglong had been subject to a cruel beating, the strength in his body was not yet lost. After he was caught, he deliberately pretended to be weak, basically not fighting back, and in this instant, he summoned all of the energy he had for this one move. At the gates of life and death, there was no space for any mistakes, and that one sneak attack was completely flawless. In that instant, Li Jinglong's entire body rose into the air. His right hand swung the metal chain, wrapping it around Suani's neck, and his left hand with the throwing knife darted out towards Suani's chest, instantly sending it in all the way to the hilt. Suani let out an angered roar and turned into black smoke that dissipated, revealing the original form of the son of the dragon, that of a huge, monstrous beast. It threw Li Jinglong off, before taking a shaky step forward, trembling non-stop, and once again turning into a human. Hung Jun's family heirloom artifacts were the immortal slaying throwing knives, and though they had no mana powering them, they could still slice through metal like they were slicing through mud. Suani's heart meridian was blocked by the knife, and just as his shape-shifting ability activated, the Yao energy in his body met the obstruction, causing the throwing knife to activate its own ability, and flames burst out as it collapsed to the ground. Mo Rijin and Chu Yongxi tottered out of the doors of their cages as Hung Jun struggled Tories. In the next instant, an enraged roar issued from the blood pool as Yazi leapt out, bringing along the fresh blood from the pool that splattered everywhere as he tackled Li Jinglong to the ground. Hung Jun gritted his teeth and tossed out his metal chain, snaring Yazi, but he was so weak that with one toss, Yazi sent him flying. Mo Rijin held the throwing knife as he charged shoulder first at him, and Chu Yongxi staggered sideways to shove Yazi. Yazi let out a wild roar, shoving the two of them away, just as Hung Jun gathered his strength and pulled out the throwing knife embedded in Suani's heart. Just as he was about to rush up, a billow of black flame flew down from the ceiling, and with a pang it turned into a human silhouette behind Hung Jun's back. Hung Jun let out a loud shout as he was grabbed forcefully by a powerful arm, and his entire body was lifted up into the air. That was Baxia. Baxia had returned. Chu Yongxi and Mo Rijin's expressions changed instantly, but when they leapt forward to save Hung Jun, Baxia only had to lift his hand and wave once. The black smoke exploded outwards, throwing the two of them into the corner, blood flowing from their heads. Li Jinglong roared, "Hung Jun dash!" Baxia conjured up sharp claws, closing them around Hung Jun's neck, causing his throat to contract non-stop. Li Jinglong called up an explosive surge of physical strength as he turned to try to save Hung Jun, but Yazi latched onto half his body with one bite, dragging him towards the blood pool. One person and one Yao sank at the same time into the blood pool. Hung Jun wanted to shout loudly, but he wasn't able to make a sound. Baxia kept tightening his grip around his throat, and his face was set in a cold expression as he lifted Hung Jun and brought him to the side of the blood pool. Li Jinglong had been dragged into the blood pool by Yazi, and his legs kicked furiously in the water, but he couldn't swim up. Yazi swam around him, biting Li Jinglong's arm from behind, preparing to tear him apart into two. "How does it feel to watch each other die?" Baxia said. "Do you want to see it?" Hung Jun's pupils expanded slightly as he stared down at Li Jinglong within the blood pool. Li Jinglong couldn't stop shivering, as he drowned within the sea. His gaze was still filled with the sight of Hung Jun being lifted up and dangled over the side of the blood pool. In that instant, Baxia had a fist around Hung Jun's neck, and with the other hand he held Hung Jun's throwing knife, pressing it against the side of his jaw, beginning to slowly cut into his ear. Blood spurted wildly, incessantly spraying out from Hung Jun's earlobe. Li Jinglong. Hung Jun's consciousness grew blurry, and the immense pain turned into icy coldness. Li Jinglong opened his mouth and let out a desperate cry, but he only let out a stream of bubbles. Yazi's sharp claws pierced his chest, and the pain from his heart caused his entire body to curl inwards on itself. His struggles gradually grew weaker, and his eyes were open as he spasmed within the sea of blood. Tears gathered in Hung Jun's eyes, and his mouth opened, but he couldn't make any sound. In the next instant, the blood pool lit up from the inside. A strong beam of light suddenly appeared. The bloody water within the pool exploded outwards as thousands of glowing points rose upwards into the air. "Let go of him dash!" Li Jinglong roared angrily. His right hand clutched at the left side of his chest as his left hand stretched out in front of him. He panted non-stop, and under that bright light, he began to float upwards, even as the fresh blood around him tried to drag him back down. Yazi pounced up from the midst of the sea, opening his mouth shining with sharp teeth as he bit down hard towards Li Jinglong, but Li Jinglong used his left hand to press firmly down on Yazi's head. From his left hand, thousands of rays of bright light burst out. Under the glow of that light, Yazi's entire body of dragon scales exploded, black energy scattering everywhere, fresh blood spurting wildly as it struggled non-stop, but in the end, it had no way to defend against the searing power of this white light. Instantly, Yazi's scales were all lost, its blood turning into azure smoke as its blackened bones burst into flame under that white light, swiftly turning into grey ash. Li Jinglong stepped lightly on the surface of the blood pool, and the glow under his feet expanded as if it was flat ground. He stumbled towards Baxia, panting as he lifted his head, staggering out of that sea of blood as if he was a demon emerging from hell. Baxia couldn't stop breathing heavily, and in its gaze was reflected this man dripping with blood, whose hand was shining with a light so bright that it couldn't keep its eyes open. "Let go of him!" Li Jinglong roared wildly. His entire body lit up with strong light, and under this glow, even Hung Jun felt that his 307 Po had nowhere to hide, and they felt close to bursting into flame. The blood on Li Jinglong's body vaporized into azure smoke, and in that instant, he was like a wild, vengeful demon, but also like a heavenly god who held a searing flame in his hand as he went forth to vanquish the evil in the world. Baxia tossed Hung Jun heavily to one side, instantly taking on his Yao form, pouncing towards Li Jinglong. Li Jinglong's entire body emitted a fierce heat, like there was a burning shell of white-hot flames layered over his body. He lifted his left hand, pressing it on Baxia's head, gritting his teeth as he said, "Go die." With a loud boom, Baxia was pushed so hard by that glow that it sank into the rocky floor. Its whole body convulsed as it struggled non-stop, letting out pained wails, before the strong light within Li Jinglong's body flashed, and everything turned into a shadow. After multiple flashes, Baxia let out a despairing howl, and its entire body split into pieces and began to burn as it was slowly swallowed by the white flames. Hung Jun, Mo Rijin, and Chu Yangxi each lifted up their arm to block their eyes, until the white light receded and the aura of flames around Li Jinglong slowly dissipated, leaving him panting, turning his head to look disbelievingly towards Hung Jun. "Li Jinglong, I. Hung Jun couldn't even muster up a single sentence. He looked at Li Jinglong, before the pain in his arm and ear and the loss of his energy caused him to almost faint once again. After the time of one stick of incense. "Press firmly against the wound," Li Jinglong said anxiously. "Hung Jun, it's all right, it doesn't hurt anymore." "Spread the ointment on," Mo Rijin said. Chu Yangxi asked, "Which ones are to be taken orally, and which ones are for external application?" "Hung Jun, come here and take a look." Hung Jun's medicine bag even had some salves in there, and after picking out a few and smearing some on, Chu Yangxi said, "We've got to get out quickly and get it stitched, otherwise it'd be a pity if it left a scar." "It won't leave a scar," Li Jinglong said. "It'll get better." Hung Jun pillowed his head on Li Jinglong's knee, turning his head to the side to let him apply the medicine. Everyone was still in a state of shock, because everyone had almost lost all their lives at the same time, but after barely escaping with their lives, they all began to smile again. Li Jinglong smiled for a while, before his eyes grew red again, and he couldn't help but start choking on his sobs. "Thank goodness Zhenqi was here," Hung Jun said. The other two hurried to agree, yes, that's right," before quickly changing the topic. Hung Jun wanted to sit up, but Li Jinglong made him rest a little while longer. "We need to quickly find a way out." Just as Li Jinglong opened his mouth, his heart twisted with pain, and after speaking that sentence, he stopped. "What's wrong?" Hung Jun, however, began to worry. Li Jinglong waved a hand, and Mo Rijin said, "Just now, activating that magic probably hurt your heart meridian, so lie down first." Li Jinglong assured them that there was nothing wrong, before exchanging a glance with Hung Jun and asking, "I can use the heart lamp now?" Hung Jun also didn't know for sure, and he responded, "Please make sure to not mess around with it, recklessly using your spiritual energy can very easily harm your meridians." Li Jinglong wanted to try out some magic, but he couldn't call upon that energy again. It was just then, in that instant, when he lost his consciousness, that the energy had the chance to burst out. "The heart lamp is the artifact of the blazing lamp's inheritors, the Chen family," Chu Yangxi said. "It will integrate with the chakras of the body, and at the same time corrode the power of the heart meridian. Zhenqi, just now it probably activated uncontrollably in the face of danger, so don't recklessly use it under ordinary circumstances." Li Jinglong furrowed his brow. "Right now, we are still in the face of danger. This place is not somewhere we should stay for long, and we can't hold back on using the heart lamp. We should get out first and discuss more later. The wounds on Hung Jun's ear and arm had been simply dressed, and he had recovered some strength. Origin picked up the artifacts that had been abandoned in the corner, handing Chu Yongxi a calligraphy brush. As long as our mana recovers, then we'll definitely be able to get out. Origin lifted his head and looked towards the transportation array on the ceiling of the cavern as he spoke. If that Fox Yao comes back after 12 Shishan, then when we cross blades again, we might be able to give her a good fight. The pentacolor sacred light is with her, she took it away, Hung Jun answered. Chu Yongxi said, what about we find a place to ambush her and try it out? Let's first conceal ourselves, Li Jinglong said, breathing for a second before rising, and dispose of the bodies. He said bodies, but only Suanese was left. The four of them worked together to toss it into the blood pool, and Suanee's corpse sank downwards. When Suanee died, Baxia had appeared for no apparent reason. These three Yao were all sons of the dragon, and it would make sense that when their lives were in danger, they had some sort of special connection. Just now, despite them acting so suddenly, they actually managed to survive to the end. They really were very lucky. There was a small pond high up in the cavern, and there was some rotten meat scattered around the edges of the pond. No wonder Suanee came to this place just now. After the four of them sketched out a plan, they rested in this place for a brief moment to recover their mana, waiting in anticipation for Lady Kuokuo's return so that they could carry out another ambush. End chapter. Legend of Exorcism. Chapter 34. An artifact for escape. It's really strange, Origin said. Where in the world did A Tai go? Chu Yongxi panted. Isn't this pretty good? At least he's out of danger. Hung Jun furrowed his brow. How exactly were you guys tricked into being trapped here? After they had split up that night, Origin, Chu Yongxi, and Li Jinglong hadn't yet received the Carpiao's message when they all stepped into traps. The same array That Hung Jun and A Tai had seen was also set up within another tunnel of the moat, in a residence not far from the Dian Pagoda, and in a cave outside of the city. The Carpiao must have only found A Tai before going searching around the entrances of the waterways to find the whereabouts of the others. Chu Yongxi and Origin, likewise, sent their power into the array to investigate, only to fall prey to the ambush of the blood droplets. But Li Jinglong had been met with a sneak attack, and in the instant that he was attacked, he made a daring decision. Since he couldn't escape, then he might as well appear weak and pretend to just faint, and so he arrived here. Only Hung Jun and A Tai had lifted up that brass plate, thus avoiding the result of being sent here by the transportation array. But normal people would all have put their mana into the array, so that they could test what effect it has, right? Origin asked. Yeah, Hung Jun said, so we aren't normal people. You've only just realized? But where did Zhao Zilong go? The Carpiao looked around in all directions, carrying a silk bag filled with Lihun pollen as it dashed about on the dark main street, running all the way to the exorcism department shouting, Hung Jun! Where did you go? Zhao Zilong Xiang! The Carpiao was frightened out of its wits. When it turned its head back to look, there was A Tai. After the time of one stick of incense, the human and the fish stood in the courtyard. Oh, great, A Tai said. Hung Jun's missing too now. Of all the important things in the world, Hung Jun was the most important. Having not only lost his person, but potentially to a dangerous situation, the Carpiao thought, if the big boss of Yaojin Palace knew, then it would be no more than fish on the butcher's block, not knowing if it would be lingchiet into raw fish fillets or fried into squirrel fish, and its entire fish body trembled with fear. Why aren't you with Hung Jun? The Carpiao almost howled. I was too tired, A Tai said. I hadn't slept for a day and a night, and after resting my eyes for a bit under the bridge, I fell asleep. The Carpiao, what to do, what to do, A Tai waved his hand, indicating that the Carpiao need not grow frantic anymore. After all, the sky had already come crashing down, so they might as well hurry to go find the others. Let's go, A Tai said. I already have an idea for how to resolve this. A Tai brought the Carpiao below the bridge of 9 turnings, and the Carpiao lifted its head, glancing over the intricate array below the bridge. This is one place, A Tai said. Follow me in further. The human and the fish waded into the water as they went forward, and the Carpiao said, its voice quivering with fear, I passed by Pingkong Li and just went in to take a glance. Don't say any more, A Tai pressed one hand to his forehead as he responded. No one will blame you, you're not an exorcist. But my duty is to protect Hung Jun, the Carpiao shouted nervously. I let you guys go protect him, and look where he is now. A Tai. Don't shout, look here, A Tai stopped in his tracks. In front of him was another array. The Carpiao took a look at the array, before A Tai then brought it to the depths of the tunnel, finding 4 arrays in succession. The Carpiao spotted Hung Jun's footprints, and in the end, they followed the path that Hung Jun had taken, coming to that open cavern. A Tai glanced at the brass plate, the inside of which was empty. The Carpiao stared at it foolishly for a long time, before lifting one foot and testing out stepping into it. Nothing strange happened. A Tai recalled the events of the day when he and Hung Jun had first found this array. Now that they were looking at it, it must have been intricately connected with the disappearance of the others. Without waiting for the Carpiao to ask, A Tai directed some of his own mana into the array. The array began to glow, but without the power of that central drop of blood, there was no way for the passageway to open. At the same time, the array on the ceiling of the cavern lit up, and the various members of the exorcism department, thinking that it was a powerful enemy, each scrambled for their artifacts, never taking their eyes off the light of the array. Doesn't work, A Tai's voice traveled faintly to them. Lacking the main focus of the array, so I can't activate it. A Tai. Li Jinglong shouted. Don't leave, but also don't come in. The Carpiao's voice said, I seem to hear the voice of the unlucky doom magnet. Li Jinglong. A Tai, your mental state's affecting you ba. Everyone hurried forward, and Chu Yangxi shouted, A Tai. Keep an eye out behind you. And there's that dumb big guy, the Carpiao's voice said. Chu Yangxi pressed his hand to his forehead, saying, it's even come up with nicknames for us. Zhao Zilong. Hung Jun shouted. Hung Jun. It's Hung Jun dash. The Carpiao began to dance around wildly, and this time A Tai had heard him too. He hurried to shout, Hung Jun. Are you guys inside? Mana permeated the transportation array, and though they had no way to transport people, both sides could faintly make out each other's voices. The Carpiao hurried to ask, Hung Jun, you aren't hurt ba? Hung Jun covered his ear that had just stopped bleeding with his hand, and he shouted back, No, I'm not. Are you guys all right? Where did you guys go? The Carpiao, I went to the western market to buy groceries, what do you want for dinner? Zhao Zilong, you move aside. A Tai said anxiously. Get Zhenqi over here, what exactly happened? Li Jinglong went forth, lifting his head and telling him about the entire series of events. A Tai replied, then, we still need to go find a blood droplet. No, Chu Yangxi said. This array looks like it only allows for entry, not exit, so if you come in now, you might also be stuck here with us, unable to get out. When Lady Kuokuo and Baxia had left, they didn't use the array, instead drawing a sigil with their hands before disappearing into thin air, which meant that there was another way to leave this place. A Tai, you guys go find their master, Li Jinglong commanded. After you find her, do your best to keep watch over her, and slow her down no matter what. We'll think about more ideas here. A Tai made a sound of agreement, and he left with the Carpiao in tow. Today, a strong wind gusted over all of Chang'an, and the icy wind was piercingly cold. A Tai piggybacked the Carpiao on his back as he went to Lady Kuokuo's manor, only to learn that His Majesty, the imperial concubine, and Lady Qiaoqiao had all returned to Mt. Li. Tai could only then go to the markets to rent a horse, before galloping off as fast as he could towards Mt. Li. Within the cavern, time slowly inched by. No one spoke a single word, all of them devoting their energy to replenishing their mana. Li Jinglong let out a deep sigh as he asked, "How's the recovery going?" Hung Jun was the one whose recovery speed was slowest, and only about 20% of his cultivation had recovered, as he was gradually becoming able to control the throwing knives. Chu Yangxi said, "Do you guys remember the sigil that Lady Qiaoqiao drew before she left? Maybe we can try it." Based on his memory, Li Jinglong sketched out that sigil on the ground, saying, "I don't understand sigil-based magic, so I don't know if this is correct or not." Chu Yangxi observed it for a second, before rolling up his sleeves, twirling his brush around in his hand, trying to draw that sigil in midair. Hung Jun sat cross-legged in front of the blood pool, and he couldn't help but recall that sentence Lady Qiaoqiao had spoken before she left. "His father killed my younger sister. Now, his son has finally all fallen into my hands." And not too long ago, when he saw Yang Yahuan, she had seemed surprised in a way, which was to say, the imperial concubine and Lady Qiaoqiao both recognized his father. This was one of the duties that Chongming had bestowed upon him, and even if he hadn't said it himself, Hung Jun would still have wanted to figure out the truth behind his parents' deaths. He slowly connected the dots between this and the hallucination that he had seen that day when he smelled the Lihun pollen. Were those my mother and father? Hung Jun's forehead furrowed deeply. Hung Jun. Chu Yangxi pulled Hung Jun out of his thoughts. Li Jinglong furrowed his brow. He's already very tired. Hung Jun lifted his head to see that the three of them watched him with expressions of confusion. Origin said, "Is there any magic that can break through pocket dimensions?" Chu Yangxi lifted his brush, drawing out that sigil in midair. That sigil let out a hum and a flash, but it had no way to send people out. When he thought back, when Lady Qiaoqiao had lifted her finger to draw the transportation sigil, her ring had glowed as well, which meant that in the outside world, there was definitely some kind of artifact that would resonate with the sigil, thus assisting the caster in leaping across space. This sigil borrows the power of resonance, causing the caster to be transported. Chu Yangxi said, lifting his head. The blood pool is here in this pocket dimension, so using one drop of blood will cause a resonance with this blood pool, like a key opening a lock. The drop of blood is the key, and the blood sea is the lock. After the array is activated, it can send people in here. Hung Jun hadn't expected Chu Yangxi to have understood its working principles so clearly in such a short amount of time, and he replied, "So that's to say, we need to set up a lock outside." Chu Yangxi nodded and asked, "Can you sense the pentacolor sacred light that Lady Qiaoqiao took with her?" Hung Jun replied, "Let me try it." Hung Jun pressed his hand on the back of Chu Yangxi's. He sank into silence for a moment, before shaking his head and furrowing his brow. "I can't." Everyone once again sank into deep thought. Origin asked, "Can we use the Lihun pollen that Zhao Zilong carries?" "There must be another artifact that belongs in a set," Chu Yangxi worried. "There also must be the special condition that those artifacts can resonate with each other." "Hung Jun, I know." Everyone looked at Hung Jun, and Hung Jun revealed a smile as he said, "The immortal slaying throwing knives. The four of them make up a set, and there's still one more which must be on Lady Qiaoqiao's person. Put them all here, I'll do it." And saying this, Hung Jun began to roll up his sleeves. Li Jinglong immediately broke in, "We must first make preparations for all eventualities before we go out. After this, as soon as we see Lady Qiaoqiao, don't make any idle talk, attack first and talk later. If she returns our blows, then it proves that she's a Yaoguai, and she won't be able to escape. If she doesn't return our blows, that's even better. No matter what, there will inevitably be a large battle ahead." Mt. Li, the walking pool, at twilight. Li Longji soaked in the pool, letting out a long sigh. He had long since grown extremely weary. To one side, Yang Yahuan was using a small silver knife to scrape off some pearl powder as she said quietly, "Is your Majesty still thinking about the matter from before?" "I'm worrying over it," Li Longji sighed. "For important matters involving the country, those can be entrusted to him, but as for demons and monsters, how will hunger handle those?" Yang Yahuan smiled slightly. "Since Li Jinglong has inherited the will of Duke Di, I imagine there won't be any major obstacles. The Yaogwai have even passed under Zhen's very nose," Li Longxi said. "When Zhen thinks of that day, Zhen can't help the feeling of fear after the fact." Yang Yahuan said in a gentle voice, "It is exactly by the blessings bestowed upon your Majesty, may the heavens guide my great Tang, that these children are able to promptly drive away the evil Yaos." Li Longji began to smile, and he said to himself, that day, after the Fox Yao were disposed of, Quozhong said a few things to Zhen, and after listening to them, Zhen began to worry. "What did he say?" Yang Yahuan was astonished. Though the exorcism department is his to oversee in name, he isn't willing to take it to heart. He said, Li Longji seemed to also feel strongly about this matter, that every member of the exorcism department is very highly skilled, so how can the common soldiers be their opponents? Let's take Isai as an example. For one of him, matching up against 100 soldiers is probably not a problem for him. When these people are wholly loyal to the Great Tang, they make excellent examples for the troops, but what if one day, they're no longer loyal to my Great Tang? Yang Yahuan didn't say any more. As long as they are human, they will possess the 7 emotions and 6 senses, Li Longji said. In the past, I reduced the power of the Chancellery exactly for the Secretariat, Department of State Affairs, and Chancellery to be balanced in power. Today, though the members of the Exorcism Department aren't many, if something were to happen, who would be able to balance them out? Yang Yahuan was silent for a moment, before responding, Li Jinglong and that child by his side both have clear gazes and an aura of untainted qi, so I imagine they won't bring disaster down upon the imperial court. It is easy to say that now, Li Longji said, but 10 years later, 100 years later, and even thousands of autumns, tens of thousands of years later? To rule a country, one cannot always use a person's character as evidence. This is exactly what Zhen is most worried about. Yang Yahuan smiled gently. Take it slow, there will always be a way. Perhaps the Chancellor of the Right and the Zhenchi of the Exorcism Department have also had similar thoughts. Just as they were speaking, that small silver knife within Yang Yahuan's hand suddenly lit up, letting out a wang sound. Li Longji and Yang Yahuan both jolted at the same time. Yang Yahuan furrowed her brow. What's going on? Just as we were speaking, it. Put it down, quick. Li Longji said. Where did it come from? This. I've also forgotten, Yang Yahuan answered as she put down that silver knife she was using to scrape off pearl powder. Last time I saw it in Big Sister's house, right when she was mixing pearl powder, so I took it casually from her room. Did you ever ask her for permission? Li Longji asked, shocked. What artifact is this? The silver knife glowed brighter and brighter, slowly rising up into the air, trembling incessantly. The point of the knife turned towards Li Longji, and with this Yang Yahuan didn't wait any longer. With a hwala she leapt into the pool, before with a twist, she used her own body to block Li Longji. The rising fog was thick and wet, and with her long upper robe pressed against her body, Yang Yahuan, with her back to Li Longji, panted non-stop as the two of them both watched that throwing knife. The silver knife grew brighter and brighter, starting to crackle with electricity. Li Longji turned around, grabbing a glass bowl to slam down on it, but right after, that silver knife suddenly shone with a blinding brilliance, its electric light shooting out in all directions, and with a wing, Li Jinglong flew out from that glow. Li Jinglong was covered in blood, and he fell into the pool with a hwala. Yang Yahuan let out a piercing cry of, guards! Li Longji shouted loudly, guards! Guards, come quickly! This place is... In the next instant, Chu Yangzi and Mo Rijin fell into the pool with Hualalas as well, before right after, from within the blinding brilliance, Hung Jun plummeted into the pool head first. It hurts! The wound on Hung Jun's ear had yet to heal, and when it was inundated by the spring water it was so painful that he grimaced. With a shuffle, he rose from the hot spring, and the four of them splashed around in that pool for a bit. Hung Jun unintentionally stepped on Yang Yahuan's foot, and Yang Yahuan shouted shrilly, "Who's there?" "Sorry, sorry." Hung Jun hurried to apologize. "Uncle! It's your majesty!" Li Jinglong shouted immediately. Li Longji stared at them, not making a sound for a long while. With this, Li Jinglong didn't know if he should kneel or stand, and he hurried to bow and make his greetings, but he didn't expect for his face to splash right into the water, and he spewed out that mouthful of water with a pft. Mo Rijin and Chu Yangzi didn't have a chance to wipe their faces as they pulled Hung Jun forward. "Assassins! Capture the assassins!" At this time, the Shenwu troops all rushed over, carrying crossbows in their hands, all of them aiming and pressing the trigger without asking any questions. "Wait!" Li Jinglong had yet to open his mouth when Li Longji let out a loud shout. "Stop! All of you put down your weapons!" Li Jinglong breathed heavily as he clambered out of the pool, saying, "Your Majesty, let this subject give his report." "What happened to you all?" Yang Yahuan asked instead. "You're hurt. We're currently pursuing Fox Yao." Li Jinglong was just about to open his mouth when he saw Lady Kuo rush over, and the two sides stared each other down. "Attack!" Li Jinglong roared, no longer paying attention to Li Longji and Yang Yahuan. In that instant, Mo Rijin knocked an arrow to his bow, and Chu Yangzi waved his large brush. The 7-nailed arrows whistled out, accompanied by droplets of black ink, and with a hua sound, Huaking Pool swiftly became a scene from an ink painting. Lady Kuo didn't pretend at any ignorance. With a flick of her sleeve, the 7-nailed arrows were swept back at them, before her eyes glowed with a bright light, and a gust of energy burst out. "Kill them," Lady Kuo's voice said icily. In front of the Huaking Pool, all of the Shenwu soldiers knocked arrows to their bows at the same time, and with a shua, a dense rain of arrows that blanketed the sky enveloped Li Jinglong and his group, and even Li Longji within the pool. At the same time, A Tai piggybacked the car Piao, galloping frantically up Mt. Li, when he suddenly heard an explosion in the distance, and all of the Shenwu troops rushed towards the Huaking Pool. "Protect His Majesty!" Cries and loud shouts rose everywhere. A Tai lifted up the hem of his robe and strode quickly into Huaking Palace, where arrows flew from all directions. The car Piao shouted loudly from its place on A Tai's back, "Wah-ya, watch out for the arrows! I'm not a shield." "What's going on?" A Tai said. "Are we fighting our own?" The scene had descended into chaos, and everywhere were soldiers of the Shenwu army callously turning upon their own. A loud sound came from the direction of Huaking Pool, as if something had broken, and the roof collapsed with an earth-shaking rumble. Lady Kuo is attempting to assassinate Zhen. Within the chaos, Li Longji was able to swiftly pinpoint the main points, and he shouted, "End her on the spot." Li Jinglong said, "Your Majesty, things are too rushed, if there's a fight." Li Longji's dragon robe was draped over his shoulders and his hair was in disarray as he grabbed Li Jinglong with one hand, shouting, "Get to the point. I'm afraid of destroying." "Destroy as you wish." Li Longji only had to wave a hand for everyone to act as if they had been granted a great pardon. Li Jinglong shouted, "Try your best not to harm the lives of the Shenwu army brothers. Attack and capture the Yao." Hung Jun, Chu Yangzi, and Mo Rijin all followed orders as they rushed towards Lady Kuo. At this point, the scene was chaotic beyond compare, and from outside the hall, more and more Shenwu troops came rushing in, coming to a stop before Lady Kuo, as if they had changed their allegiances. They all looked as if they had lost their minds as they turned towards the members of the exorcism department. Chu Yongxi shouted, "I'll take the lead. You guys follow. Destroy as you please." His Majesty said so. And with that, Chu Yongxi waved the brush in his hand. The entirety of the walking palace vibrated spasmodically, and in that instant, the carved railings and painted pillars, the wall paintings of landscapes and strange beasts, and even all of the sketches on the porcelain vases and lanterns, the women, lions, hawks, fish, and even the dragons all flew out, glowing with 1,000 beams of godly light as they flew towards the troops in front of Lady Kuo. The Shenyu troops were temporarily restrained by the brightly colored dragon that had flown out of the coiling dragon pillar. Though it could not spew fire, it was huge in size, and when it writhed over, it utterly routed the troops as it collided with them. "You still had this move?" Li Jinglong cried. "Why didn't you use it earlier?" "Chu Yongxi, I wanted to use it. But do you think there were drawings in the cave?" At this time, Lady Kuo let out a howl, and the fox rose abruptly off the ground, colliding with a pillar. From its mouth, black flames spewed out, billowing across the ground, and the Shenyu troops wailed within that sea of flames. "Okay. We can destroy as we wish." Mo-Rijin followed after him and leapt up onto the ridge beam with a few steps, before leaping into midair, flipping head over heels, drawing his longbow into a full moon. In that instant, arrows shot out in rapid succession, all 7 of them were released, and they flew towards that Fox Yao. "Should we act?" Li Jinglong asked. "Wait a sec." Hung Jun was still counting that Fox Yao's tails, 1, 2, 3, 8 tails? It was still missing 1. The Fox Yao let out a howl, obviously very afraid of Mo-Rijin's 7-nailed arrows as it dodged within the 4 corners of Walking Palace. It turned and collided with a red lacquered wooden pillar, and everyone took this chance to leap up onto the rooftops, chasing after it. With a few steps, Hung Jun leapt up high, and Li Jinglong shouted, "Hung Jun! What are you doing? Send out your throwing knives!" Hung Jun made a push gesture at Li Jinglong, but Li Jinglong didn't understand. The 2 of them exchanged a glance, and Hung Jun nodded vigorously, pointing at himself, obvious anxiety in his gaze. Li Jinglong turned his head and glanced at the jade peacock plume hanging from that 8-tailed fox's neck. "Grab his pentacolor sacred light back!" Li Jinglong shouted. "It's around the Fox Yao's neck." End chapter.